University of Guam has dedicated, passionate people to help you get to your destination. Whether you want to be a scientist, a physician, an entrepreneur, data analyst, uh, anything. We have something for everyone, and we will work with you to make it affordable and accessible.
Half a day, it's your innovation coach, Rob Jackson, and welcome to another edition of the Innovate Guam Podcast, a podcast where we explore all things innovation, technology, and improvement related to the island of Guam. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Substack. My podcasts drop at the beginning of each week. Also, be sure to check out my Innovate column in the Pacific Daily News every first and third Friday of each month. All right, our guest for today's episode is Dr. Anita Borja Enriquez, the 12th president of the University of Guam. Dr. Enriquez is a daughter of Guam, a product of our island's educational system, and one of the most important higher education leaders in our region. Her story is powerful because it is not just a story about academic credentials or institutional leadership. It's a story about social mobility, resilience, public service, and the belief that education can change the trajectory of a life, a family, and an island. Before becoming president, Dr. Enriquez served more than a decade as UOG's senior vice president and provost, helping lead the university's academic enterprise through accreditation, program development, student success efforts, and institutional change. She also served as the dean of the School of Business and Public Administration, where she helped strengthen business and public sector education for Guam and Micronesia. Her background is not limited to academia. Dr. Enriquez has also been an entrepreneur, a corporate planning and development manager, and a management consultant. That blend of private sector experience, public service leadership, and academic administration gives her a unique perspective on the role UOG must play in Guam's future economy. Her educational journey includes a Bachelor of Science in Management from the University of Maryland Global Campus, a Master of Business Administration from the University of Guam, and a Doctor of Business Administration in International Business Administration with a marketing concentration from Alliant International University. Dr. Enriquez became UOG's 12th president in 2023 after a national and international search process. She is also the second woman to serve as president in the university's entire history. Under her leadership, UOG is advancing the strategic plan focused on moving the university forward through student success, workforce development, research, financial sustainability, and public value for Guam and the wider Micronesia region. Today, we're going to talk about her personal journey, the future of UOG, the university's responsibility to Guam's workforce, how we keep our best and brightest young people here, and what UOG should look like in 2035 and 2045. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Innovate Guam Podcast, Dr. Anita Borja Enriquez. Dr. Enriquez, welcome to the podcast.
Half a day, Robert. Thank you so much for having me join your special podcast. Happy to be here.
Well, we're so glad to have you. We have a tradition here on the Innovate Guam podcast where we do some icebreaker questions to see where your head is at in terms of innovation. And the question that I ask all of my guests, what is your definition of innovation and what does innovation mean to you personally?
Okay. So I think of the root word innovate. innovate, to create, to do something different from what is in existence, to essentially come up with something new. Innovation is a result of, your action to do something new, do something that is a creation of something that deviates from what is in existence, whether it's a process, a system, a product, or process, service, roughly about the same thing, right? So it's something that's new, something that doesn't
Yes.
exist.
I love the university president, and you broke down the the word into its parts
It's
and
like
looked
it's
at
like a
it. I
master
love it.
class, right? Only I'm doing it on
Yes.
Zoom. This is how I do it with my students. Let's take the root term. What does effective mean? I said, let's what does it mean to be effective, right?
Yes. I love it. Next question. When you think back on your own educational journey, what teacher or mentor or experience most shaped the leader that you became?
Oh gosh, I have to say, and in any space that I'm able to share, I feel like I wish I did have mentors along the way. Coming from a generation where you went to school, you did you behaved, right? You behaved so that you can learn. And so I went to a private school for from first grade through seventh grade, and it was very strict. So
Mm.
this whole idea of, you know, let us hear, Anita, let us hear your ideas. I mean, that was never that was never a question posed. All I knew is that I aced all my science courses, I aced all my math courses, but I didn't know that I could be a biologist. I didn't know I could be a physician. I didn't
Wow.
know that I could be a scientist, an astronaut, because there are no mentors to speak about the possibilities.
Hmm.
And that was my experience. I sort of had to figure it out. And fortunately, I was such a bookworm. I loved reading. Back then, you didn't have cell phones. Uh, you, at, we lived in Agate, so Agate was very far from the half-a-day theaters where you got to see a
Wow.
movie. We didn't have VCRs. We started off with the black and white television sets, and you watch whatever was on the television. That's what you watch. So there was Gunsmoke, right? I'm taking you back to, Gunsmoke, All in the Family. Those were and then of course my dad, he loved action films, so Hawaii Five-O eventually, that was a thrill for me. Yeah, but so the Agate Public Library was my playground. And I
Wow.
loved going there. I would go there alone and go through the bookshelves and pull out anything that looked interesting. And I would pile, my arms, little arms, and plop them on the table and start reading. And so
Mm.
though we never traveled, so I never got on an airplane until I was an adult. So I didn't know about these spaces. I did remember reading a book. The whole Madeline series, Madeline in Paris, and essentially that world. And I didn't know where it was in
Yes.
the globe. All I knew was it was a completely different sphere. So the books took me to different spaces, and the books became my world outside of having mentors. It wasn't until, I mean, this is, I always had to figure it out. So the mentors were individuals who sort of took a liking to me, like, wow, this is a special young lady. I want to kind of bring her under my wing. And so these were politicians. I'm thinking, oh, okay. And that was not a space that really interested me. So, oh,
Uh-huh.
you're a bright young lady. Let's bring you into into this space. Do you want to be a Republican? Do you want to be a Democrat? I'm like, I don't know, that none of those interested me, but I did love science. I did love math. Having no mentors, I didn't know. I didn't know that there were college prep courses. I went to a vocational trade school after graduating from uh, graduating from Simon Sanchez Junior High. So I went to
Wow.
the vocational technical vocational technical school, high school, which is a subset of the Guam Community College. And it was there that I learned about the world of work, and I was exposed to 3 different employment prospects. And I learned that, hey, there's a whole lot of world within private enterprises. And that's what excited me. But
It's
yeah.
it sounds like you really came from humble beginnings, and you, through reading and applying yourself in school, that was kind of the thing that opened up your imagination and put you in a position where you could take advantage of opportunities. But you came from humble beginnings
Yeah.
in the south of the island, and you know uh, rose up into
Yeah.
what you are now.
So I have to say, when I became the 12th president of the University of Guam, an article that came out, I guess, after listening to my whole convocation, it was my investiture speech. The headliner was "From Rags to Riches," and I took a bit offense to that, because I mean,
Mm,
rags implies that that was my humble beginnings. And in fact, we didn't think ourselves of, being in poverty, because
right.
we had a wealth of family around us. We had extended first cousins, nana tata. I mean, we were meeting every weekend, and we didn't think
And
about
all
well
your
off.
needs were taken care of.
All our needs, basic needs, right? Food on the table.
Yes.
We were able to go to school. We didn't have a lot of resources. I Dad didn't have money for lunch money, but going to a private school where you enter the cafeteria and you smell delicious I call it hot lunch, with the Blue Seal carton of milk and the freshly baked cookies. And I love to eat, so I had my crumpled recycled paper bag with a toasted bread sandwich that my sister had made for us in the morning. So by the time it hit lunchtime, it was all stale, and it was like a deviled egg
Mm,
sandwich. All that water
yeah.
was absorbed in the stale toasted bread. And then we had like a room temperature can of 7 Up. And so there was one time where I opened it up and it splashed all over the cafeteria tables, and I was so mamala. I was so embarrassed. But I remember specifically because you had to take your trash to the large bins. Everybody did. People would come with their trays, and so I saw a couple of my classmates who would actually handle, the disposing of the trash, and they would sit down towards the end of the lunch break, and so I said, "Gosh, I wish I could have hot lunch." And they said, "Well, we
Mhm.
don't pay for our hot lunch." And I'm like, "How is that possible?" They said, "Well, we clean the restrooms after school to get to
Mm.
get free hot lunch." I'm like, I want to do that. So I saw that as an opportunity and thinking, how do I get to do that? So I guess I forget how I navigated that process, but I remember happily scrubbing the sinks, scrubbing the toilet bowls, scrubbing the
Mm.
floors, pouring. I don't remember how old I was, pouring the Clorox into the toilet bowls and scrubbing. But I was happy because I knew I would get to have the hot lunch. And that was the motivator, right? So that was I took great delight at figuring things out, being
Yes.
resourceful, being creative in order to get by. And even after high school, well, upon graduation, because my dad would always say, get straight A's. I send you any college you want. And so, clueless as I was, I didn't know you had to apply for college. I didn't know anything about financial aid, nothing. We were first generation college pursuers. And so I said, Dad, I got all these A's. You're going to send me to college in the States. And he looks at me, and this is the first time I saw a very stern look, in my dad's face, saying, "What are you talking about? I don't have any money to send you to college." They didn't have any money to send us to the University of Guam. So my sisters, one above me in age, one below me, we had to figure it out. So we all went and sought part-time jobs and started at the University of Guam. It took us, I eventually transferred to University of Maryland, but it took us 6 years to finish what should have been done in 4 years, only because we had to figure it out. We had to be
Yes.
resourceful. We worked in the
Yes.
private sector, and that was where we built up our work ethic.
Yes. Yeah. I know from my own family story, my grandmother would go to school a semester at a time at Hampton University. And this was back in, oh my goodness, I want to say um, maybe 40s, 30s, 40s, South Carolina. And she would go to school for a semester, and then she would take a semester off, and she'd work as a full-time domestic in the good Southern Belles houses for a semester. And then she would accumulate her money, and then she would go back to school. And she did that all the way through school. One semester on working, one semester going to school.
Wow. So she took
Yeah,
what seems like an 8-year plan
yeah,
or a 10-year plan, but good for her. That shows resilience and that shows, self-motivation. But what a role model she served.
yeah.
Yeah.
So why did you choose a career in higher education? And what's kept you at UOG so long? Because you talked about you got exposed to private sector and stuff like that at various points in your life, but you really, stayed true to UOG and a career in higher education. What was behind that?
Um, well, my beginnings was in the private sector. Coming
Hmm.
out of a vocational trade school, I was exposed to a CPA, working for a CPA firm, working for a full charge bookkeeper, income tax preparer, and working for an insurance company. So having those three work experiences, and of course, being able to type over 100 words a minute with no errors. And so I had skills, I had skills that were marketable. Uh, and so very complimentary to my business degree, which I received. And I always knew that I never wanted to work for GovGuam. Like
Hmm.
my dad approached me and says, why don't I talk to the governor and get you a job? And I looked at him and I was so offended. I'm like, you can't, you think that I can't get a job on my own? I was so offended by that he was going to try to, to try to finesse something to get me a job in the government of Guam. And I was very offended by that.
Hmm.
So I can get my own job. Thank you very much, Dad. No disrespect to you. And I was stubborn that way because I said I can do it. I've been able to navigate on my own. So I was a college dropout, and my husband at the time was also a college dropout. We called them stopouts, and he was in the Air Force. I was. We were off island, and we had our daughter. Our daughter was shy of 2 years old, and I said to him, I said, "Listen, if we want opportunities for our daughter, we need to increase our earning potential. And a university degree is a change maker for us."
Hmm.
So he was able to use, I guess, it might have been the GI Bill, and I was working at the Army Corps of Engineers in the design section, and I think I was a clerk typist. So I applied for a, a for an educational loan. And the minute I got approved, I put in my 2-week notice, and I just focused. What I was short of 2 years worth of credits, I knocked it out in a year and a half's time by just hunkering down. I said, "This is a sacrifice we're making as a family." He was doing the same thing, and then I said, "Well, I'm going to go back to Guam and I'm going to see what's there." Because I said we increase our earning potential. So when I got back, there was an opportunity to work for a private firm, which is uh, basically a joint venture with a Hawaii-based firm as a training manager and EEO officer. So
Oh, wow.
Talk about transformation. I was able to increase my earning potential by at least double. And when I saw an opportunity at Citibank's Treasury for a Treasury officer, I'm like, oh, I think he's got some experience in this. I reached back to him and said, how about this position? I would go ahead and spruce up your resume and submit the application and the resume. So he was hired before he got out of the Air Force within a few months, and so we were both in management positions in the private sector. We were both able to increase our earnings by at least double. And so that was transformative. Talk about social and economic mobility.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
And
tell you, just listening to you, it's almost like you were iteratively innovating your life and iteratively innovating your social and economic climb throughout the journey of your life. And that's really, really personal, really, really impressive, to hear that kind of story. Because a lot of times you think that people who are in a position like you right now, leadership position, higher education, a PhD degree, that they were always this way. They were always, um, top and best and in the best areas. So to hear somebody who's kind of, as the young people say, got it out of the mud, it's really refreshing to see and hear.
sure, thank you. It was when I was in that position before I navigated to other positions, where I was in the human resources division, and people would come in to submit their applications. I remember university graduates coming in and really not knowing how to uh, not knowing how to present themselves, and
Mm,
how to present themselves. And I'm thinking, what are they doing up at the University of Guam? And someone who was very adept at training, I'm thinking, gosh, what else? They need to kind of level it up. So was fascinated by that. I wanted to see how I could make a difference. And but I recognized that, hey, I'm still with this firm. Ultimately, maybe I'll get back later. Beyond, I left that particular company, and I ultimately transferred to another company, and had a lot more responsibilities, a lot more benefits, and so forth. I did work for a company that will not be named, but it was because I reached the glass ceiling at that time that I decided to just go do full charge consulting, apply for my business license, and I still took a class, started to take graduate level classes at the university because I wanted to feel more confident about my competencies uh, beyond my bachelor's degree, and I enrolled one course at a time in the Master Business Administration program, and I was fascinated by that. I also applied to law school with my
wow.
husband, and we both applied, and then decided for a specific reason to defer it until the following year. And so, in the meantime, I was taking a course at a time towards my MBA, and I thought, you know what? It's probably best if he just goes off. I hold down the fort, support part of the livelihood, and continue to finish off my MBA degree, which is what we did. Um, so I asked my professors, what is it going to take to do what you do? Because I love training. But that was an
Mm,
outside university setting. So what will it take to do what
right.
you do? And they said, well, all you need is that piece of paper, Anita. I'm like, what's that? They said, well, you need to have a doctoral degree. I said, oh, very unattainable. No money for that. And then an opportunity called the University of Guam Doctoral Fellowship Program surfaced.
Mm,
It was designed for Guam residents who had lived on Guam, I think, for at least 10 years. And it was to pursue a hard to hire discipline for future faculty positions. So I asked the question, so what are these hard to hire disciplines? Well, there's finance, there's economics or accounting. Oh, and there's marketing. I'm like, marketing, I can do that. But it was during the economic slump of the US mainland. The economy was low, slow. And what tends to happen is this whole contraction, right, of
Yes,
budgets and acceptance, admissions of new candidates at the doctoral level because it's expensive, because the classes are much smaller. And of course, it just takes a lot more assets in terms of faculty to manage and to supervise these doctoral dissertation committees. So I
right.
applied to, I think, 10 different universities, not a lot of marketing PhDs or DBAs or whatever those are. And most of them were not accepting new students. The condition of the doctoral scholarship was you had to have been accepted by an accredited university in the U.S. mainland. There was Michigan, there was Indiana, and they said, "Thank you very much for applying." Because we had such a healthy, application of 1,500 applicants, and we only have one slot open, we regret to inform you. So that was one university. The other was, we had over 1,000 applicants, but only two slots. So we regret to inform you. And the third one said, we are happy, congratulations, we are happy to accept you. And that was UT Knoxville for a PhD in marketing. However, we would like to defer your admission until the following year because of budget constraints. I said, okay. And then I learned that Guam was discontinuing the fellowship the following year. And so
Next
there's
year,
this
yeah.
race against the clock. I'm like, no. And so I finally received one from a private university out of San Diego. It was U.S. International University that got bought out by Alliant International University. This tucked away in Mountain Road, San Diego, in person. And so they congratulate me. It was very pricey. And I said, okay. So that's how I navigated into this particular industry, with the intent to make a difference in the classroom, not to be an administrator, never to be an administrator, but to make a difference in the classroom, because I love being in the classroom. I love making a difference. I knew the students needed more relevancy beyond just, your textbooks. They need to know the application. And because coming from being a student of a trade school, being a former training consultant, I wanted them to be prepared. Job readiness was in my frame of thinking.
Yes. What a blessing, and what a great experience. I mean, the first thing that even attracted you to was almost a service kind of thing. You were concerned about what you were seeing out of some of the graduates. So it was like, how can I get involved so I can help there? What a blessing. What a blessing. Let's go ahead and shift gears here and go from you to University of Guam and University of Guam's history and mission, right? So the university began in 1952 as a territorial college, 2-year teacher training school. Today, it's a full-scale land grant, sea grant, regional university with programs across business, public administration, science, engineering, health, etc. What do you think about that evolution when you look at kind of where it started and where we are today?
It's phenomenal. When we embarked as a territorial college to build the capacity of teachers on island, those who are going to stay, those who are going to be here for the long haul. From the economic development standpoint, I think of it from a standpoint of import labor substitution is what we embarked on, but nobody called it that, right? And because by building your own local capacity, those who live and call Guam home long term, is that you're more inclined to have them stay and just make a sustainable difference in the long haul. And as it evolved, ultimately we had what would have been the Guam Community College embedded in its humble beginnings. The trade school, it ultimately spun out and became the vocational high school under the Guam Community College umbrella, with its own clearly defined mission, right? It was very important that their mission was not the same as the university's mission, because they're both dependent on local government appropriations, and you don't want to be redundant. Okay.
That's right. That's
You
right.
don't. And so,
Yeah.
and we're not competitors, we complement. And that's the mindset I've always had, for years. We complement, we supplement. Hey, if a student comes to us and the better fit is with the Guam Community College, we say, oh, by the way, the Guam Community College has this particular program. It'd be fantastic for your aspiration and certainly your dreams. We do the same with the GCA Trades Academy. It's
Yes.
complementary. We're not competing. And so, so we had that. And then of course, back then, especially for the students graduating from high school, University of Guam was looked upon as the university of last resort. And we didn't have a very good brand positioning back then. So many students who could afford to go, who knew how to navigate through the U.S. Department of Education, federal grants and loans, if they were lucky enough, they had a scholarship. And back then, there was the Student Financial Assistance Program. I believe that's what it was called. But students apply for bachelor's degrees that were not offered at the University of Guam were able to avail of funding to go to off-island stateside universities. So many of them were able to avail of that, even beyond those who graduated in the 1980s. Ultimately, that got changed in the law, where if you were a recipient, I think it was the Merit Scholarship, you were able, you had to come to the University of Guam. But in the meantime, we had to ramp up our positioning of quality, positioning of quality. What does that mean? It wasn't enough to have WAS accreditation, okay? Because that represented quality assurance, but we had to have additional programs and certainly look for ways in which we could sort of ramp up our threefold mission of, the teaching, you've got the degree programs, the research, right? And then the service, which was really the whole land grant, delivering public value emphasis, right? And so ultimately, and really, it takes someone who is the risk taker, who has an intrapreneur mindset within the organization to introduce innovation. And so we were able to do that through the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs, ultimately the Center for Island Sustainability, under the umbrella of President Emeritus. And I'll give him credit all the time. Some people don't give, I always give people credit because they deserve credit. In his good to great strategic plan, his theme was good to great, getting from good to great. He launched the Center for Island Sustainability. He was interested in a number of new offerings. He basically encouraged us through that process of really analyzing our current situation, our programming, what needed to be consolidated, what needed to be divested. I'm using business terms, but he didn't call them that. But I have business terms like consolidate, divest, right? And adopting new models, right? Innovate, essentially. So he had some key people who were able to help him level up, which is great. We introduced the Chamorro Studies program. That was an innovation. The Center for Island
Sustainability. Who was that you're talking about?
Dr. Robert Underwood.
Dr. Underwood, yes. What you were talking about with the Center for Island Sustainability. Wow, look at what that's grown into now.
Absolutely.
That's just a huge gem.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's a story behind that, how it sort of propelled even morphed even further. But from those humble beginnings, it was really focusing on energy, resilient energy, renewable energy. We're doing energy audits. I mean, that was a lot of what we were looking at. We launched the Green Army, which is a student organization. And so that was a lot of emphasis during its humble beginnings back then.
Yeah.
So every time we transition it into a new president, we always want to make sure that we're doing something different.
Yes.
We're kicking the can down further, or we're doing something that's going to propel it further along. So my predecessor, Dr. Thomas Kreis, his theme was Power Hulu, ever upward. And so the first two strategic pillars, number one was being recognized. I said we were doing a lot of all these different amazing research, but from the marketing position standpoint, being recognized as a research university. But I also wanted to make sure that we threw in the uniqueness of our island, our region. And so I added to that centered in island wisdom. And so by having that gave us permission to be able to address traditional knowledge, traditional, practices into the fold, and it inspired a number of folks who had these latent desires to do something that really had to do more about what's unique about our history as a Chamorro people. So traditional knowledge, traditional practices, traditional seafaring, right? Traditional medicine, traditional dance, all of these things. We had all these centers of excellence, but we were just sort of continuing to do what we normally did. People focusing on their research, people focusing on their degree programs, and I'm thinking, how do we address everything from a comprehensive standpoint, but yet keep kicking that can down? The second pillar, which to me was an amazing area of priority, was leading as a partnership university. Okay. And we're like, wow. So again, permission to leverage partners, to scale it up, to adopt, transfer knowledge, transfer technology, all of these things. Go pursue other larger capacity of grants. So EPSCoR through the National Science Foundation was something that a group of individuals in concert with the newly established Science and Technology Committee to address, building the capacity of research among those within our region, particularly students. So, building that capacity of scientists, particularly in the marine science. Yeah. So that was a work in progress, and with the assistance of a dedicated consultant based in Washington, D.C., it took us a number of years, but we finally were able to nail down that $20 million EPSCoR grant. And that was a game changer. Yeah. So all these different innovations that came along the way. And so the sciences, I mean, the centers of excellence that had anything to do with STEM, I mean, they were just
blossoming,
propelling, blossoming. Yeah. And so what came along the way was the establishment of the Research Corporation of the University of Guam. And it was sort of replicated with some tweaks by the Research Corporation of the University of Hawaii. And so that was led by our executive director at the time. Well, not executive, yeah. So we had an executive director and staff, and with that research corporation, with the blessing of the Guam legislatures, it was then Speaker B.J. Cruz, who we worked with, and others within that particular legislature, that we were able to get the approval with the signature from the governor to establish that research corporation. And that was a complete game changer, because we were able to level all of our efforts up and still fulfill federal procurement guidelines and align with the Government of Guam procurement guidelines because they were still a
Yes.
creature of the University of Guam, but to do it in a quicker pace.
Yes.
And
So
right.
let me put on a devil's advocate hat here now. So I start off the question about kind of where you started from, training teachers to now. There's some who might make the argument that, you know, UOG is not producing enough teachers, or the way that the curriculum has changed and the way that the focus has changed is more impediments for producing local teachers out of the University of Guam. And that was kind of where it started from and what the core mission was, and that UOG has gotten away from that, and therefore we're not producing as many homegrown teachers as we need. What would you say to that?
Well, the impetus for how the numbers of people pursuing an education degree has shifted was it was a quality issue. It was an academic achievement quality issue. And that's like a whole nother conversation that to be respectful, we need to have our stakeholders in the conversation, our Guam Department of Education leaders, as well as those leaders within our charter schools, our private schools, and of course our School of Education and the Teacher Certification Office. But it stemmed from students at the Guam Department of Education are scoring very poorly in the national test. And so the correlation was, because the quality of teachers coming out of the University of Guam is not very good. So that correlation was made.
Was that factually
Well,
correlated, or
that was
correlation doesn't
the
equal
perception.
causality?
That was the perception. So well, what are some of these promising practices? Well, you have you have those who are interested in teaching the GDOE system pass Praxis 1 and Praxis 2. And so it's a national, it's the equivalent of a national test. And so those who are passionate about becoming teachers, we were accepting them. We're a land grant, open admission.
Right.
You want to be a teacher, we'll help you get to the finish line. But the Praxis 1 and 2 created a bottleneck because not everybody was passing it. Not everyone was passing Praxis 2. And the condition for a degree, an education degree, was you had to pass Praxis 2. So somebody made a decision, or a group of people made a decision back then, and of course with the certification office and GDOE, that they do require that, yes, you have to have passed Praxis 2 before you become certified, and to be eligible for, I guess, the, whatever that model is for being a recognized, fully certified teacher, that was a condition of that particular level of teacher position within the GDOE system. So the question I asked, a lot recently is, if passing Praxis 2 is a licensure requirement, then why are we requiring it as a condition of the diploma at the University of Guam? Because a number of folks who complete the degree saying, well, I don't intend to teach at GDOE. I'm leaving and I'm going to be teaching in this particular state, and they don't require that. So, oh no, you got to pass Praxis 2, otherwise you don't get a diploma. And there were people who were denied their diploma because they didn't pass Praxis 2. So I said, okay, so how does the nursing program do it? Because NCLEX is a licensure, credential,
right?
But we don't require that as a condition of your Bachelor of Science in Nursing diploma. Right. I said, if it's a licensure requirement, then leave it up to the graduate to pursue
Yes.
that requirement. It's like those for the CPA exam. You still get your accounting degree, but you still have to go through the
Right.
series, passing that to be a
Bar
certified public
exam for
accountant.
lawyers, all of that.
Exactly.
Yes.
I said, why are we mandating a licensure requirement within a diploma? Uh, within the curriculum. So I said, you need to fix that because it's an I said it's a barrier. It's a barrier to increase enrollment.
And it's
Um,
probably hurting enrollment.
oh,
Um, yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. There are young people who say, I want to be a teacher, but I'm afraid of the praxis.
right,
I'm like, oh my God. So for someone like myself who is a true believer in helping young minds uh, reach their destination based on their aspirations, and I look at all these obstacles, and these are people imposed, and I'm thinking, why can't you understand why this type of thinking doesn't make sense? And I'm like, oh my
yeah,
God, shift the paradigm. So I get
yes,
frustrated. I get frustrated because for me, it's about the destination. It's like when we used to require that you have taken history of Guam before you get out of your general education requirements. I'm a transfer student. I took history. I'm just making it up, like history Palau. Do I still have to take history of Guam? I'm going back because I'm on a
right,
state scholarship.
right,
Oh no, because it's required. So I mean, I'm the person who asks why. Why do they have
yes,
to do it? Right? It's the why. And like, doesn't make sense. So um, we're working on something. It's important that we have conversation with the right stakeholders, the heads of GDOE, uh, and some people don't want change. And I'm not saying where it's coming from, but I'm saying it's not watering down the system, guys. It's having a different view from here to
right,
see how can we address the problem with not insufficient numbers of available qualified teachers
right,
to fill the classrooms. So
right,
it boils
right,
down with what is the underlying interest and what is happening in the current situation, in our current situation, do the whole situation analysis and say, what's going on? What could be the impediments? So that's a conversation that we're going to have soon, Rob. Okay. And I'm not saying that my answers are always the best, but I'm always one to question how else can we do it? What else is out there? Take a look at other state jurisdictions. What are they doing?
Yeah, and we're blessed to have a leader like you who be willing to engage in it rather than just kind of sit back and say, well, this is the way it's always been, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's engage. Let's have a conversation about why.
Yeah.
Let's look at other places. Let's
Sure.
look at other models.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So in a recent meeting with my administrators, and this is probably a few weeks ago, I said, okay, guys, if we don't change up our game, we're going to be obsolete. So permission to innovate. All of you have permission to innovate. And I said, and we need to do it quickly because I said the pandemic changed everything.
Yeah.
It reduced barriers to entry through
Yeah.
virtual offerings. I said there are
Yes.
both direct and indirect competitors that are already
Yes.
here, that are already
Yes.
here. And so having our administrators, and I know they hate it, but to start to think about their units as a strategic business unit. So each college, each school, each unit, each research unit, a strategic
Yes.
business unit. And so I've asked our vice president to produce profit and loss statements for each of these different strategic business units. And we're going to have a retreat. And it's different because we're like, okay, a profit and loss statement, what's that? And what, it's like if somebody gave me a profit and loss statement when I was dealing, like, oh my gosh, like, uh-oh, you know, we go back to like performance-based budgeting, all of this. I'm like, for me, it's like nothing new.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even more important, just metrics, right? So that you can cascade the metrics from the overall university strategic plan down to each one of the business units, all the way down to then those who are executing it, so they understand and they see how what they do every day
Sure.
impacts that number, that metric, and how it affects all the way up.
Oh, absolutely. So, having taught our graduate and undergraduate capstone courses, in the business realm, I think about the BCG consulting group matrix. I don't know if
Yeah,
you're familiar with that. So
yeah,
you've got the cash and then you've got the growth, right? One in each
yeah,
axis. And so it's a quadrant. And then so if I were to plot all of the different units across, within each of these different quadrants, it's going to be interesting what that looks like. And so that's going to be part of the retreat. And so each of these strategic business units should understand what their product mix looks like. Okay.
I would love to be a fly on the wall.
Ah, so 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 I'm thinking, before I get fired, I want to get all of these things happening and have fun because really my presidency is my capstone. It's my capstone class. Uh,
Yeah,
and the application, I'm a student of Michael Porter, of Igor
yeah,
Ansov, and being able to just pull things out and say, okay, we're losing ground here. What do we do? I said there's different strategies on how we approach this. So it's
yeah,
it's sort of like that master class amplified, but for the university. And but make sure that they have the tools, make sure that they have the support, the resources, so they're not doing it alone. It's a bit scary
yeah.
when you're a true academician and like, oh my gosh, she's speaking her business terms again, right? She doesn't get us. I'm like, I get it. Hey, I could have been a scientist. I just didn't have any mentors. You know, I could have been a STEM baby. I just didn't have any mentors who knew that I could, right? So I don't understand. It's not that I don't understand your world. I do, because I was, I, 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 I was very schooled in science and mathematics. Uh, I just, it's just I navigate to business, but employing the business model and understanding higher education, understand accreditation because I've been a commissioner for WASP for 6 years,
Hmm.
understanding government and policy and all of that, and our region, knowing
Yes.
how to partner, knowing how to leverage. For me, it's I get excited because I see the possibilities, and the glass is always half full.
Yeah, let's use that to segue into the economy and what UOG does affecting the economy. So, um, uh, just me as a brand new adjunct faculty member, my students are learning all about the Guam Transshipment Task Force report and about how to implement that. And this report really identified a lot of workforce shortages and skills gaps as recurring constraints to Guam's economic diversification. What role do you see in UOG solving that issue, as well as a lot of demands that industry has on Guam for UOG and GCC to produce full up rounds on day one for the graduates that they see. What do you say to that?
Like any opportunity where we can feed uh, into the workforce, or we can feed into ideas or policy, we always have to make a full assessment. What is the current condition, right? What is the current situation? And what has been done? And where are we? And there could very well be a grand master plan that was produced, but got tucked away in somebody's shelf and collecting dust. Uh, I always, I always try to ensure that we bring in as many stakeholders as possible because we don't have all the answers, but we can help to facilitate and we can help to mobilize some kind of response in terms of solutions. But having
Hmm.
all the right players, and if we're incomplete, seeing who else we can invite from off island to the virtual table, right?
Yeah,
Who else, the experts we can bring in, so that we have as many the many types of the right perspectives in the room,
Right.
or be virtually or in person or hybrid. And so I think
Right.
about economic development from a job creation, industry development, new business creation, all of that. And so the university, what it does is it feeds into the workforce. So if there are jobs created in industries, okay, that's what fuels the economy. We are a contributor to that,
Right.
right? Um, we don't, where we create jobs, we're a contributor or facilitator of creating this through new business development. So we have the Guam Small Business Development Center that works
Right.
with existing business owners or aspiring entrepreneurs, and we also have the Guam Apex, which is an accelerator for those who want to do business in the federal and Department of War marketplace. So
Yes.
it used to be called the Guam Procurement Technical Assistance Center. I basically wrote the grant with assistance from Veritapasnia to get the first ever Guam PTAC, before it was called Guam Apex, to the island.
Yes.
Hawaii wanted us to come under their umbrella. They had applied before, they didn't get it. And I'm like, well, why would we want to include travel expenses in our grant application when we can just do it here? So we wrote it, got it first time. The grant officer says, if we were to give your application a grade, Anita, we would give it an A+. We're going to use it as a template to review other states' applications. Yeah.
Outstanding.
I mean, let's just have 3 spreadsheets, or 2 spreadsheets spread out, typing away, burning the midnight oil. You're like, okay, what else? Had Gita, gotten all these partners, the veterans folks. I mean, brought in as many partners, SBDC, around that conversation, SBA, about we're going to pursue this. It's super competitive, but we need everybody's input. And we were able to get, we had to come up with a local match, got on the phone, CEO Bank of Guam, would you be willing to support this? Got on the phone, called Lee Weber, would you be, he was still with the Guam PDN, would you support this? Got on the phone with Mike 80, co-founder of M80, Office Systems Before Transition. Yes, sure, Anita, we'll support it. GTA, yes, we'll provide. And so we had 2 satellite locations, one at Gita, one at the Bank of Guam, Upper Tumon, and headquarters was here. But there were many different things that had to be, taken care of, including an off-campus indirect rate, which had to be negotiated. So a lot of different things, but we got it first time and did a bang-up job in getting that. But that particular Guam Apex has been instrumental in helping businesses on Guam, according to Boris Herzlet, who oversees that. I think a few years ago, the clients were able to secure over $30 million worth of contracts. So that, that is a contributor to the economy as well. But for something new.
Can I play devil's advocate again?
Sure.
So folks would argue that, okay, it's difficult because the university cannot spin up a workforce development pipeline until the jobs are there for me to generate the pipeline to.
Right.
But then there are others who would argue that it's not a chicken or egg argument. The pipeline has to come first before the jobs are already there, because the pipeline is what attracts industry to come. So you almost have to build it before they come. Would you agree with that?
In our particular case, I mean, one could argue that students need to see, what is this going to lead to? It goes back to the destination. So if we're going to produce, we have to justify why we're going to hire additional faculty to create this pipeline. So what's the destination? Is it for them to go off island and pursue jobs? Because we're not going to, the opportunity costs of investing for that particular pipeline, as we could be fueling this other area in cybersecurity, as an example, where they're already existing job
Right.
opportunities for these students. So it would need the partners of those, I call it the destination employers around the table and say, what is it that you need? Because we don't want to just take a cookie cutter program and produce a pipeline where they said, no, we actually need it like this. So as a
People
marketing
from off
person,
island.
pardon
What
me?
about people from off island? Not just the industries that are on island right now, but maybe potential industries that maybe trying to be lured here, but don't have a presence right now. Reaching out to those folks and saying, "What would you like to see?" and then creating something to lure. Or do you think that that again is too risky in terms of the investment?
Not necessarily. Whose responsibility on island is to stimulate new industry? Is it the University of Guam? Is it the
No,
Guam
it's not the
Economic
University of
Development
Guam.
Authority? Is it the governor of Guam? Right? We first have to
Yeah,
answer that question. And because I can try all I can, but if I don't have the right players helping to support it with their resources and make it a priority, I don't want to waste limited resources on something that is not a sure thing because you don't have the I say the soft infrastructure, making sure that the barriers to entry for that particular industry are lowered, right? We say we try to
yes,
attract new investors, but if they're going to come across the running around and trying to set up their business, get the licenses, get all the necessary clearances, the permits, because it really is a pain in the butt to navigate that.
yes,
Those who are already
yes,
here operating, they share with me their horror stories.
yes,
And so
yes.
if you want big investors who are, I mean, we're not even in their radar, we need to make sure that we're as investment
Business friendly as
friendly,
possible.
invest
Yes,
business investment friendly as possible. Otherwise, we're gonna have eggs on our faces. Like, oh my
right,
gosh, I kept speaking
right.
highly of this destination, but what a load of crap, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely agree. So let me shift gears to another question, and that has to do with kind of UOG's role in Guam's executive education and professional training. Do you think that the university needs to play a bigger role when it comes to reaching out and providing executive education, professional development, and professional training for folks already out in industry, at various levels of their careers? It might be senior executives, it might be middle managers, it might be entry level folks, or people in certain functional areas. They could come to UOG and get certain kind of training to then go back to their jobs on island and provide that goodness.
So yes to all, and it just depends on who's leading the strategic business unit. So what does that mean? As an example, we when we were about to launch the professional MBA degree program back in
Yes,
2003, 2004, uh, we extended invitation to these employers. Think about your key people who maybe whom you would like to invest in to pursue this 1 year PMBA boot camp experience so that you kind of level up their strategic toolbox. So we had some takers. We had them from Bank of Guam, I think Docomo or GTA, but it helped fill up the first cohort after we held our
mm,
information session at the Hilton Hotel. And so reaching out to these particular industry representatives to pitch, it's like any business developer slash salesperson. You've got to go out
right.
and you've got to offer, you've got to pitch your offerings. But if the
Yes.
leader of the pack isn't doing it, then nothing changes. So as a former full charge consultant where I would go, pursue my prospects, I'd have something to pitch in terms of my portfolio, and it was very lucrative. But having to sort of work on folks who are like, well, we're too busy. We've got so many things on our plate. It's not a priority. Then you've got that situation.
Yeah.
It is certainly an opportunity to develop even further in terms of senior level executive leadership training, other kinds of training or seminars or offerings to reach even the international market, right? So those are those opportunities that exist, but it's a matter of ensuring that people have the right resources in terms of time and support capacity in order to expand on their current, portfolio of offerings and clientele.
Okay. All right. Well, ma'am, I'm having so much fun. I could keep you here all day, but I want to be respectful of your time. So as we start to wind down, I kind of want to change the format and go into kind of a rapid fire round, if you will. I got a series of questions and just kind of a rapid fire answer. And then I want to turn over the mic to you to kind of answer a vision question, and then we'll wrap it up. So rapid fire question number one. Tell us about one UOG program that more people should know about.
Oh my goodness. Ooh, there are a lot. Oh my goodness, there are a lot. There's so many, and I don't want to be disrespectful to my colleagues because there are absolutely so many, and I can't wrap my head around just one particular. I can tell you,
So you go pass on this one, huh?
I mean, I could give you an example, but that's just one, and we
You
do
don't want to
have.
play favorites.
Well, I do have to say, that I'll tell you something that we're providing that a number of people don't know about, among many other things, is that we have support systems for students who are interested in becoming physicians, as well as those who are trying to beef up their portfolios so that they can qualify for advanced programs stateside. As an example, those who pursue pre-medicine who have taken taken the MCAT exam, the admission rate into medical school ranges anywhere from 50% to 80%. That's impressive, right? That's impressive.
Yeah.
Students who love doing research, and who want to be able to present off island at the undergraduate level, we have funding for their travel. So we provide travel awards through Miles, and also we have many different STEM related grants that allow for them to engage in collaborative research. And for those who are interested in pursuing any of the healthcare graduate programs and so forth, I mean, those are available among many other programs for students. If you want, so I say in general, if you want to go off island for school, come to the University of Guam.
There you go.
If you want to go off island for your degree, come to the University of Guam, because we have many avenues for you to do that through our multiple university partnerships across Asia and the U.S. and through different kinds of grant funded opportunities. Pardon me?
My son needs to be in the room to hear that. He took a gap year after graduating from high school last year. He graduated from Harvest, and he's looking at UOG in the fall, but he kind of is dragging his feet because he thinks, hey, I really want to go to school in Japan. Well, start your journey here at UOG, and that will be the bouncing board or the springboard to get you to Japan. So yeah, he needed to hear that.
Absolutely.
All right, next question. One workforce gap Guam must address urgently.
I just think about the cybersecurity gap. Every single entity, every single organization, nonprofit, government, private, federal, etc., must have people with at least fundamental understanding of cybersecurity because of
Yeah.
the plethora of threats.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, One thing UOG needs from the private sector.
We need to we're going to work on a survey, but we need to know what are your specific training and workforce needs.
Yeah. One thing UOG needs from government of Guam.
An understanding and appreciation of everything we're trying to do to make Guam good.
All right.
Yeah.
One thing parents should tell their children about UOG.
University of Guam has dedicated, passionate people to help you get to your destination. Whether you want to be a scientist, a physician, an entrepreneur, data analyst, anything. We have something for everyone, and we will work with you to make it affordable and accessible.
All right. And the last rapid fire, one word you want people to associate with UOG in the future.
A trusted institution to help elevate and sustain our island long term.
Outstanding. Okay, so now last question. You're looking out into the future. It's 2035, then break, it's 2045. What does UOG look like in that vision of yours at 2035, 2045? Mike, over to you.
That University of Guam is doing something very special. It's been engaged in really innovative solutions that we want to partner with them and learn more about. And the University of Guam has they're doing something right. They're doing something right, and we want to learn about it, and we want to partner with them.
Outstanding. Dr. Enriquez, thank you so much for this great conversation. Thank you for everything that you're doing over at University of Guam, your leadership, because it's so important. The university really is, I believe, at a precipice to really help usher in a transformation of Guam. There's so many things that are possible for this island, and the University of Guam is going to play a huge role in that. So thank you for what you do every day. And I learned a whole lot this episode. I hope my listeners did as well. Thank you for being on the Innovate Guam podcast. And if people want to reach out and learn more about you or the university or the programs and the activities you're looking at, how could they contact you?
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for everything you do and for providing a space for us to share so that we can learn from each other. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I think almost all of our political leaders have my cell phone number, but some of those in the private sector do. But I am accessible primarily through my email address. So it's Abe, as in Abe Lincoln, ABE at triton.uog.edu. I may not have all the answers in front of me, but I certainly can connect you to the right resources, the right expertise, so that we can continue to move, the can ahead. So happy to partner. Let's make sure it makes sense for everyone. Make sure it's sustainable, and we're just excited to be, part of the solution. I fear every time a new resolution comes up that sort of like limits my time, because then I can't do all these other wonderful innovative things. Oh shoot, I've got to oversee that now, and so it's just let's have a conversation before we push any mandate forward, so that we can look at other ways in which we can still achieve the same outcome without having to create new constraints.
Outstanding. Thank you, Dr. Enriquez,
Yes, thank
for
you.
being a guest on the Innovate Guam podcast. I really enjoyed it. To my listeners, remember to follow me on all social media platforms, including Substack. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes. And don't forget to check out my Innovate column in the Pacific Daily News every first and third Friday of the month. Until next time, remember, whether you're at work, at home, or at play, always innovate. Thank you.